Bloomberg Audio Studios.
Podcasts, radio, news.
This is the Bloomberg Daybreak Europe podcast, available every morning on Apple, Spotify or wherever you listen. It's Thursday, the 2nd of January in London. I'm Stephen Carroll. Coming up today, a deadly attack in New Orleans kills at least 15 people. Hours later, a Tesla truck exploded outside Trump's Las Vegas hotel, killing the driver. Joe Biden says authorities are investigating if there's a possible connection as US domestic security is thrust back into the spotlight. Plus, a look at what to expect from markets in 2025. We have Wall Street's predictions for the year ahead. Let's start with a roundup of our top stories. At least 15 people have died, with dozens more injured after an attacker drove a pickup truck into crowds celebrating New Year's Eve in New Orleans. The driver, a 42-year-old from Texas called Shamsuddin Jabbar, was shot dead after opening fire at police. Authorities say they discovered an ISIS flag at the scene. FBI Special Agent Alethea Duncan says other items were also discovered.
Weapons and potential improvised explosive devices, IEDs, were located in the subject's vehicle. Other potential IEDs were also located in the French Quarter. As of now, 2 IEDs have been found and rendered safe.
The FBI also says Shamsuddin Jabbar was an army veteran who may not have acted alone. Hours after that attack, a Tesla Cybertruck exploded outside of Donald Trump's hotel in Las Vegas, killing the driver and leaving 7 others with minor injuries. Police say the vehicle pulled up to the glass entrance doors of the Trump hotel and then smoke appeared from it before a large explosion. Sheriff Kevin McMahill says they've already tracked the truck's origins.
We do know the truck was rented in Colorado. We were able to trace that truck through the Tesla charging stations, and it arrived here in Las Vegas this morning at about 7:30.
Officers say they found no signs of a connection to international terrorism, but they're still exploring all possibilities. In a series of posts on X, Tesla's CEO Elon Musk said the company had confirmed the explosion was caused by very large fireworks and or a bomb carried in the rented Cybertruck. Now, Musk also said that both the Cybertruck and the pickup truck used in New Orleans were rented from a company called Turo, a car-sharing marketplace that allows hosts to rent out their vehicles. A spokesperson for Turo said the company didn't believe either renter involved in the attacks had a criminal background that would have identified them as a security threat. Investigators in Las Vegas say they're looking into the possible connection. In remarks at the White House, US President Joe Biden offered condolences to victims' families of the attack in New Orleans and set out what is known so far about the attacker.
Here's what we know so far. The FBI has reported to me the killer was an American citizen, born in Texas. He served in the United States Army on active duty for many years. He also served in the Army Reserve until a few years ago. The FBI also reported to me that mere hours before the attack, he posted videos on social media indicating that he was inspired by ISIS, expressing a desire to kill. The ISIS flag was found in his vehicle, which he rented to conduct this attack.
Additionally, he said law enforcement officials are tracking whether there's any possible connection between the two incidents.
Additionally, we're tracking the explosion of a Cybertruck outside the Trump Hotel in Las Vegas. Law enforcement and the intelligence community are investigating this as well, including whether there's any possible connection with the attack in New Orleans. Thus far, there's nothing to report on that score at this time. I've directed my team to make sure every resource is made available to federal, state, and local law enforcement to complete the investigation in New Orleans quickly and to make sure there's no remaining threat to the American people.
President Biden there addressing events that have thrown US domestic security back into the spotlight less than a month before Donald Trump is sworn in as president. In a post on Truth Social, Trump wrote that our hearts are with all of the innocent victims and their loved ones, and that his administration will fully support the city of New Orleans as they investigate and recover from this act of pure evil. The return of Donald Trump to the White House has dominated forecasting on Wall Street. Bloomberg has found that optimism towards US assets when it aggregated the financial world's key calls for the new year. Bloomberg's James Woolcock has more.
America first. Government debt will not shrink, and the AI rally has still got further to go. Bloomberg journalists found a remarkable degree of consensus when they crunched the 2025 calls from some of the biggest names in finance. Many called for diversification to try and combat the unknowns around Donald Trump's second term. Perhaps they're aware that just because it's the consensus view doesn't mean it's always right. In London, James Woolcock, Bloomberg Radio.
The European Central Bank's 2% inflation target is in sight. That's according to the New Year's message from the Central Bank's President Christine Lagarde.
So we have a big, heavy agenda at the ECB. We have made significant progress in 24 in bringing down inflation, and hopefully 25 is the year when we are on target as expected and as planned in our strategy.
ECB President Christine Lagarde speaking there. Euro area inflation slowed over the course of last year and went below the ECB's target in September, though it has ticked up again in recent months. Lagarde has warned that inflation will fluctuate around its current level in the near term. Those are your top stories on the markets. Shares in China are selling off. The Hang Seng is down by 2.2%. The Shanghai Composite 2.4% lower this morning. The CSI 300 down by 2.7%. Euro Stoxx 50 futures are pointing higher, up 0.8%. In a moment, we'll bring you more on those attacks in the United States, plus details of Bloomberg Intelligence's 50 companies to watch in 2025. But first, I wanted to mention another story I've been reading this morning in case you're casting about for help with your New Year's resolution. Cynthia Coons from our health team has dedicated part of her prognosis newsletter to one of my favourite subjects, which is sleep. Now, I think a lot of us talk about wanting to get more sleep, but find ourselves getting easily distracted around bedtime and perhaps letting things slide, and you end up in a sort of cycle of exhaustion. Cynthia spoke to a sleep psychologist about this and came up with some helpful tips for things which might help get you to bed a little bit early, including doing housework in batches, maybe preparing lunches for several days at a time, or finding more personal time during the day so you don't feel like the only moment you have for yourself is when you should be going to bed. Some helpful hints too for those who wake up during the middle of the night and find it difficult to get back to sleep. Keep a pad beside the bed. Write down any thoughts you might have or tasks that are preying on your mind. You can read Cynthia's full analysis in the Prognosis Health newsletter. You can sign up at bloomberg.com/newsletters. Well, let's turn to the US now. And the New Year's Eve truck attack in New Orleans that killed at least 15 people. Hours later, a second incident in Las Vegas where the Tesla Cybertruck exploded outside the Trump Hotel there. Our senior editor, Bill Ferries, joins us now for more. Bill, what is the latest on the investigation into the attack in New Orleans, first of all?
Well, New Orleans police have identified a chief suspect, a 42-year-old Army veteran, who they believe carried out this attack. They're saying that they found in the truck he drove other potential explosive devices, as well as a flag for or showing support for Islamic State, the terrorist group. And they say that there may have been other explosive devices planted along that route or in the French Quarter that they're looking into now. They don't know a lot more. The investigation has gone on to Houston and other areas. They've said that it is possible that this driver had assistance or people got help from other people. So they're starting to look at his acquaintances, his family, and also just scouring through his social media feed, where there have been reports that he has shown some sympathy, apparently, for ISIS. So that's where we stand at the moment. They don't know if there is any connection with this attack in Las Vegas as well.
Well, turning to the explosion in Las Vegas, that's also being investigated as a potential act of terror. What are police there focused on?
Well, I think, the driver in that attack appears to have died at the wheel. It's not clear exactly what exploded. There was smoke coming from the vehicle. And then on the video that police have released of this, you see an explosion take place. And then it looks like a whole bunch of fireworks were going off. So it's still not clear what caused that explosion, whether it was a bomb or a lot of powerful fireworks. It's clear, what Elon Musk and Tesla have said is that it wasn't an issue with the Cybertruck itself, but what was put into the trunk of it.
Do we know if there's any connection between these two incidents at this stage?
We really don't. I mean, the thing that is linking them at this point is just the timing, occurring just a few hours apart. President Biden came and gave a brief speech, and said that investigators are looking at possible connections, but that there was nothing really at this point, as far as we know, to link them.
This, of course, happening as we're counting down to Donald Trump's inauguration in the US as well. What have we heard from the president-elect, and what does this mean for, questions around security in the United States?
Yeah, I think on the big picture question there, it is going to cause a rethink of security and how it's done, and particularly in big cities where it's where you have points that are known gathering places for large crowds. I mean, when you're talking about the French Quarter of New Orleans, that has long been a place where huge crowds gather. There's going to be a lot of questions why on some of the video that's come out so far, a driver is able to just drive around a police barricade there and get onto the road. There's going to be another look at things like that, and of course, with the inauguration occurring in just about 18 days, I think, there's going to be another look at security in Washington. But back to New Orleans, the city was expected on Wednesday night to host a major college football game and parade. That was all postponed until Thursday. I think we're going to get our first look at revised security procedures when that parade and game get underway on Thursday in the U.S.
Okay, Bill Ferry is our senior editor. Thank you very much. Now, to global stock markets, which registered a second consecutive year of gains in 2024, even as the overall performance was less than in 2023. So what's in store for the year to come? Bloomberg Intelligence has compiled a list of 50 companies to watch in 2025 from across industries and regions. And Tim Craighead, Director of Research at Bloomberg Intelligence, is in studio with us for more this morning. Good morning to you, Tim, and Happy New Year. First of all, can you talk us through how you came up with the broad themes we should be thinking about this year?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me on, and have a new year. This list of 50 companies comes largely from our broader list of what we call focus ideas. And these are companies where we have a strong view that we believe is out of consensus or differentiated from what the market thinks. And they've got catalysts coming up that can change the market's mindset. All of these 50 specifically have important catalysts coming up in 2025 that we think make them relevant for this coming year. So that's how we've selected it. It's very bottom up, and then we'll look at what buckets they come in as opposed to thinking about top-down strategies per se. So it's an interesting thing relative to what you see a lot of times coming from a macro view. This is very micro.
Yes, and indeed some of the kind of key themes, if we think about AI just being one of them, we heard so much about it last year as well. How should we think about this in 2025? Will it be less US focused, perhaps?
Yeah, interesting. Last year, we had a lot of AI-related names. They tended to be software-oriented. This year, it's more in the enabling technologies where our analysts are focused on. So high-bandwidth memory, which is a Micron technology story. Some of the equipment companies or tool makers like KLA that feed into making these things. The one non-U.S. company, it is U.S.-centric in this instance, the one non-U.S. company is a company called VAT Group, which makes vacuum technology. And you think, what is that? You've got to have a vacuum within the semiconductor manufacturing process, and these guys make the high-end vacuums that allow this to happen. Really interesting company. There's certainly others in the AI story that are European, for example, that are going to be worth watching, that were ones that we've considered, like, say, a Schneider Electric, which, is an infrastructure play, but quite important for data centers. And so I think that'll be an area to watch beyond just simply the U.S. tech-specific ideas. Okay,
so nature abhors a vacuum, but technology loves it. Good to know, Tim Craighead. Let's turn then to some of the other kind of big themes. Of course, we've got Donald Trump's presidency very much in focus for where the calls coming from Wall Street forecasters are. What about the companies that you've been thinking about and their exposure to Donald Trump?
Yeah, it's interesting. If I look across the list, the biggest group of companies from a global vantage point, it doesn't really matter where they're located, that play into a Trump mindset is they're stimulus economic growth stories. So they're not specific to Trump, but if we see his policies being stimulative as expected, Adecco. It's an employment story. Airbus, from the standpoint of ongoing pickup in travel, and there's also a supply chain improvement story with Airbus that we think plays through. Remy Cointreau. It's been a difficult period for them from a U.S. consumption perspective, and higher interest rates have been an issue as well, just from retailers holding on to stock. Lower interest rates plus a good U.S. consumer, we think, can play advantage to them. Home building picking up in the U.S. and beyond plays into Signify, which is the world's largest lighting company, the spin out from a couple of years ago out of Philips Electronics, which is, Signify is a European company. Those are all plays into that cyclical mindset of a Trump presidency. I would also mention that as much as is viewed about him being a non-climate change sort of person, we don't think he stops the energy transition. And there are companies like RWE, the European electric utility company that's bought into clean power in the U.S. that we think will be quite important. Frankly, that's more of an AI play, because you can't power AI in all the data centers unless you start building out clean energy to power the AI transformation. So interesting ways to think about Trump beyond just simply policy.
This is Bloomberg Daybreak Europe, your morning brief on the stories making news from London to Wall Street and beyond.
Look for us on your podcast feed every morning on Apple, Spotify and anywhere else you get your podcasts.
You can also listen live each morning on London DAB Radio, the Bloomberg Business app and Bloomberg.com.
Our flagship New York station is also available on your Amazon Alexa devices. Just say, Alexa, play Bloomberg 1130. I'm Caroline Hepker.
And I'm Stephen Carroll. Join us again tomorrow morning for all the news you need to start your day, right here on Bloomberg Daybreak Europe.